Good evening, good afternoon, good night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in Odessa: The Dark Crusade Season 2. It is a cold night, following on from the night prior. We're quite a ways from the domain of Odessa, particularly from the city walls. About a mile away from the largest village. A few miles, to be fair. There is a military encampment. It is well defended. There are constantly people bustling in and out. Laborers, soldiers. Husbands, wives, and children. But now the sun has set, and most of those people have gone. And there are only the soldiers who guard the palisade walls. And ride around the fields and from village to village to ensure that there can be no invading force. But the only thing Qadir sees or even feels is that of dirt and soil. That he has been buried within a shallow grave. The stake through his heart, what he can really feel is the slow, crushing weight of the soil above him. Until he hears metal. Sharply digging its way into the soil, into the dirt. And about a minute or two later, he begins to see light, ambient light, from torches, from the sky, the stars. There's not much light pollution here. He sees several armored men, including the one on display here. The one with a thick, antiquated chainmail. Now that you've had a chance to get a good look at it, over the past, well, over the past night or two, you can see just how old it is. The rings have fallen off or snapped off at the rims. Much of the armor is slowly rusting away. It's lost its sheen, its shine, its grade. Slowly lost its luster. And it is as old and tired as the one who wears it. And he digs you out. you see these palisade walls. You see the stars first. It's when he picks you up that you can see the soldiers moving around, that you can see the walls, the horses, the riders, the flaming arrows. And a pyre with a very large bundle of wood surrounding it. And he takes you into a nearby tent. A tent in which it is pretty dark. To you, it is fairly obvious this tent is sun-proofed. It is also large. It is where the commander would sit to plan, to discuss with his subordinates, and to sleep and rest during the day. And he simply puts you down. And he will begin to move the stake just far enough so that you may speak.
When he feels the vitality return to part of his face, he begins, let's see, gnashing his teeth or smashing his teeth to one another, and you can hear audible cracking as he's doing his best to control his temper at the moment, but he knows he's at a disadvantage and it would be unwise to do so. And once he has that moment of some type of release expression, his face mildly relaxes to try to adjust itself to the person that wishes his attention.
You are hungry. It's only been one night.
He does not gesture with his face. He remains silent.
You must forgive me. Humor is one of the few things left to me these nights. He looks down at you, gauges your expression. I'm not sure whether you intend to ignore me or listen to me. Although I am glad that you have tempered yourself.
I am at a disadvantage. I believe you control the flow of this conversation.
I have been controlling the flow of events for some time now. I would say it would please me to say that you finally caught up to this realization, but it has resulted in a great deal of bloodshed. Contrary to what you may believe, that does not please me.
A lot of people say that.
Yes, it is a rather tired statement, isn't it? I would have said the same thing merely a year ago. Still, I no longer find myself in a position where containing my violence to those who deserve it is an option.
All I can say is, as with anything, no good deed goes unpunished.
Hmm. I would not call this a good deed, but I would
Eh,
argue it leads to a desirable outcome.
This at least shows that you have a less sense of an ego compared to others.
Pardon, what did you tell him?
Oh, so the answer at least shows that you have less of an ego compared to the others.
I suppose that depends on who you mean by others. My partners have actually humbled themselves. They have changed quite substantially in the time that they have remained outside of the domain of Odessa. It is actually quite revealing to me that it is when we separated ourselves from the domain that we were able to grow as individuals, rather than simply degenerate as beasts. But I digress. I figured you would have had questions you wanted answering.
I am more surprised you're allowing me to speak at all. So I am a bit apprehensive to ask anything.
I find myself embittered by your clan, but not you in particular.
Well, I must say your compatriots will give them a reason to be rather unsettled to your recent actions.
Hmm. We take issue with the domain. And the cruelty and the corruption it has enabled, as opposed to any one clan in particular. Myself excluded from that particular sentiment. If there is one thing that will occur when the domain is taken, it will be that the usurpers are dead and gone.
Hmm. His face twists a little bit when he hears that, and it's more of a less that he's against what he's saying. It's more of a there's like an apprehension to what he's saying.
You seem rather hesitant. I thought you would have been more happy to see the usurpers destroyed. But then, these are Edessan Assamites, I suppose.
I've been told by a good friend of mine that it would seem ignorant and cruel to put all from one particular family under the same judgment. I don't necessarily agree with her at all points, but I understand her point. It is ignorant to make sure that the son gets punished with the sins of the father, even as deep of a sin they may be.
Yes, I must admit I have been taking some time to observe your thoughts. It does surprise me that you're on such good terms with the regent.
Despite his heritage, he has proved himself to be more than what he comes from. It is not right. It is not right to not honor him on that.
You mean the new regent that is complicit in the genocide of my clan? And in
And
the transmutation and slavery of several other clans?
and with that, his face twists, like this is new information to him.
Or does the Tremere of Edessa, or do the Tremere of Edessa not possess gargoyles, the twisted children of the gangrel that is Mesian and Nosferatu?
That I am aware of, and I was ready to rectify their bastardization of their arts, as they continuously do. But I was with terms, as he continued to speak somewhat freely on this, with that particular Tremere, that if such things were occurring, he would tell me. It seems, yet again, they prove that they cannot truly be trusted.
Well, that was rather obvious. It surprises me how easily the continued genocide of my clan is dismissed by everybody else.
It is, and he's in total agreement with the statement. I was in fear of speaking with the sheriff of the city, as he has a great personal tie with the Tremere.
Hmm.
I did not need them to try to impede our paths and bring him forth the proper justice. If you have been scanning my thoughts, you know that they know, and you know that they do seek retribution. Oh,
Ironic. Given that it was the usurpers that started their war upon us and not the other way around, I'm not sure anyone who aligns with them is in a position to be speaking of retribution. This
no.
is the retribution. They are merely running from the consequences of that.
And his eyes shift in a agreement gesture. They have gathered too much interest and power in too short of a time for murdering one of Cain's proper children. And till this night, they still don't give them enough hesitation. They call on their gifts constantly. It makes no sense. We were here way before they even existed as proper vampires.
Your clan, much like several others, values their gifts. The usurpers only value it insofar as it will ensure their survival. They will sell themselves as whores and charlatans, should it be necessary for their survivals. In this, they are as some would view the gangrel, but I find them to be far more honourable and steadfast creatures.
The gangrel are constantly underestimated as the Nosferatu. We all have our place in this world. Unfortunately, the Rose and the Kings have different opinions.
The Rose are an enigma to me. They have changed much since my departure. But I do not think they are bound by any real code of honor, no.
They're sensationalists. They go where the next high is.
I do not find myself arguing with that sentiment. Alas. You did not deliver my message.
I couldn't trust who to deliver it to. Like you've said, they have ignored threats before.
Does that justify not informing them that one exists?
It does justify the given the proper incentive to do something about it. Maybe it was arrogant for me to believe that, that my clan can make the decision for them, but it's what we do.
It is, and it begs the question, who is to judge the judge? As powerful as your clan may be, particularly here, the simple truth is that few clans wish to submit to your will. Similar to how mine was dismissed as soon as the usurpers decided that we were in their way.
They're still bound by their mortal coil despite what they say.
It has little to do with mortal coils and everything to do with simple greed.
And you say that not a coil to mortals.
Do the Assamites not seek the heart's blood of others and use it to enrich their own power?
We believe that blood should not be wasted.
Regardless of the cause, that is still the consequence. And diablerie is a very dark deed, regardless of the justification. You will find few among my clan who look kindly upon such things. Even I have reservations. about one of our own who has committed the act. But at least he shows the appropriate remorse.
I have not committed the act. I haven't had the reason to.
I do not see it upon you, no. You do not possess such a stain upon your soul. Yet, given the opportunity, or maybe even given the order from the clan, I am uncertain as to whether you would have disobeyed such an edict.
My loyalty is to my clan. Unless the person in question had no reason to be devoured, I would do so. And he says, duty before everything else.
Pardon?
He says duty before everything else.
Unfortunate, Fen. As good soldiers do not always follow orders.
And again, he will actually nod his eyes in agreement as he understands the statement.
If you agree, why do you submit yourself to something you perceive as wrong? If you understand the atrocities the usurpers committed, why do you remain so amiable with their regent?
The regent at the time proved that he had a soul in comparison to the rest of his clan. So if I was told to diabolize an individual, like I said, unless there was a grand reason to not to do so. So I understand the wisdom of my clan. Said, waste not. As I understand the debauchery of what entails of that particular technique, we do find it more efficient than simply destroying the body.
Your clan was more than happy to conserve their own blood at the cost of mine. Those words ring hollow in me.
And as you would know, not that others wanted to, and others were willing to, and others did. And do not think my relationship with he says, with the newly appointed regent is my opinion about the rest of the clan. I was more than ready to make sure they were removed from Edessa, and I've been doing my best to give Edessa the proper attention upon us.
I do not believe that is true. You cannot be in bed with the enemy's leader yet be ready to destroy them on a whim. I have seen this story play out many times. I will believe you when you kill the regent.
And when he says that, he thinks about that for a moment. Do you? Would you believe me and see me as an honorable man if the regent was destroyed?
Would you have destroyed the regent? Then yes. Because you would be reinforcing your words to me now. It would be a show that you would back up your ideals, your beliefs, with the force that they deserve. Words are simple things. They can be easily played with. No one cares about them in our society. They are tools to a given end.
always resound louder than words.
Hmm.
And like I said, don't see my relationship with the Regent as my opinion about the clan. If you've also been reading my thoughts, you know I was more than ready to eliminate what kidnapped.
Yes, you were. But that was a direct assault upon your clanmate. Anyone else would have done the same.
So my clans were not kidnapped by the Tremere when they're doing their gargle experiments.
No, they weren't. That was for the other clans to deal with.
That we involved ourselves greatly, with no incentive from anybody else. The gangrel, unfortunately, were wounded and broken for the ones that survived. Hollow. It was not an easy sight. There's a
Oh,
Misi we've never spoken to, but when I gave them the information, they were more than willing to retaliate. And the Nosferatu, the gangrel, have a relationship with them, and again, they were united in our assault against the Tremere. We were ready to invest. We were ready to storm a particular area of their control. Then you arrived, and you know that is true.
these are excuses for prior inaction. If the Assamites had truly cared about the threat, they would have made war long before you arrived, long before you started your investigation. It was the Assamites that convinced my clan to sue for peace, exploiting the humanitas for healers. Kind-hearted as they are, they were manipulated by your clan. The reason why? Your clan's blood was on the line under a tyrant prince who died to a force far stronger than he, because that is all he relied upon for all of his knowledge and power. He relied on nothing more than fear.
And I guess, quick out of character question: is he referring to another Assamite, or is he referring to Hakim?
He's referring to the Assamites, Assamite clan, the Assamites of Odessa, because you have to keep in mind, Tabbris has been here a lot longer than you.
No,
He's referring to the Assamites of Odessa as a whole.
No, because he wasn't there for that ad. So he will
If
just
you were
simply
so ready to take control, why has it not already happened? Why has the situation not been resolved? Why have the usurpers not been forced to their knees, made to give back to the clans to whom they stole from, and bleed as any other clan would for such atrocities? Everyone can talk about how they're playing the slow, the long game. But again, these are empty words to one who is an elder, to one who has seen civilizations rise and fall. There is a time for patience, and there is a time when it is an excuse. Everybody already knows the crimes of the usurpers. The evidence you already have should have been sufficient. If it would have mattered at all. Because truly, if the other clans cared, well, we wouldn't be in this situation, would we? I would not
No.
be here, you would not be staked. And there is a good chance we would even be friends. But this is the price we pay when we take shortcuts to power. And we decide to lower ourselves to that level. It is a shame that your clan has had to pay the price for, frankly, the actions of others in most cases. To be frank, the greatest crime I could levy against the Assamites in the city of Odessa would be apathy.
And his eyes nod to that, as he also knows why he was sent here in the first place.
But does not excuse the fact that of all clans, yours would have been in the greatest position to stop what was happening here, and it didn't happen. And that, when there was real risk, the risk of death, when one had to place the beliefs over their lives, your clan buckled and sought to buckle mine. Of all my failures, honestly, signing that ridiculous treaty was the greatest.
I only heard stories what happened in Odessa with the Salubri.
We
No.
arrived decades after the treaty had already been signed. The city, understandably exhausted after one civil war, did not have much patience for us, however justified we may have been. Still, they would hear nothing of our pleas. Diplomacy was largely impotent. Rather, I wouldn't call it diplomacy at all. It was closer to blackmail. And of all the clans, it was yours that would refuse to back us. Should we have continued our crusade? Perhaps because the term crusade is so toxic to your clan. But then we were just talking about mortal coils. He smirks.
I don't follow the faiths of Abraham, nor the new faith from this Jesus.
Hasn't stopped the Toreador and Ventrue labeling you Saracens.
I was raised in the old ways. The ways that are tangible, those are real.
I have heard of your web of knives. I do not recall those stories from my own youth. You may wish to be careful what your clan tells you of your progenitor. Not all of it may be true.
Unfortunately, it never is. There actually is a sad tone, really sad tone in his voice.
It is strange. Your clan is either horribly apathetic, unable to take any action at all, or takes entirely the wrong action. It has been a strange couple of centuries of your clan. It is almost as if it is buckling under the weight of its own division. I'm aware you have separate castes like us, but I did not think the divide would be so strong. Up until recently, our clan was united, and we face extinction.
Akin blood is strong and opinionated. It's not simply the division of the caste, it's the division of mindset. I would say for an associate I interact with, she is part of more of a newer sect compared to me.
Then you can understand why so few clans trust you to judge them when they see you succumbing to the same follies.
Indeed.
It was actually something my clan had sought to stem, and, well, we see how the usurpers have helped you there. We were in a unique position to empathize with your clan.
And we should have been in a position of better clarity. The fact that I have seen clans choose to whine and moan about the usurpers, but still choose to do nothing because they're afraid they get their hands dirty, it does bother me.
It appears the Gangrel are ready for war again. It is refreshing to see.
As they should be.
You know, I would have let the Tismisi be, but frankly, they're so monstrous.
The Mises are the monster that we know.
Yes, but they do not deserve the vengeance they seek. They have their own debts to pay. After all, one can complain about gargoyles all one pleases. That matters little when you are turning Canaanites and mortal alike into furniture for the purposes of entertainment.
If they were offended, they do have the right to proper justice, regardless of how excessive it is. And his tone is better dry with that.
How poetic that it will be me that delivers that justice for them.
I have no loss with Uzumisi.
You do.
I do hear. Could you repeat that? Sorry?
He just says few do.
I have heard of ones that aren't cursed by whatever that thing is. But I've never met one.
I've met many Tismisi. They're unlike other clans. In many clans you'll find some manner of some semblance of conscience. They seem to lack even that. I've only ever met one Tismisi who was not a complete monster, and he had abandoned his clan's ways entirely, to hear him say it. I hope he outlives me.
So, and he'll stay. And his voice will show a sense of, I guess, vulnerability, maybe even more gets confirmation. Outside of gathering the attention of the citizens of Edessa, is your true purpose only to kill the usurpers?
The usurpers are the cause of many wrongs in Edessa, but they are not the only one. And I am not the only person seeking justice from Edessa. But even if it were simply myself, the venture would have to be destroyed. The Cappadocians exiled, not only for their realignment to them, but their gross negligence in the running of the domain prior to this new prince.
Qadir thinks on that for a moment because outside of the increasing relationships between the Assamites and the Cappadocians, all the other people he's brought up, he has no love lost with any of them. He really has no opinion about them, nor does he really care.
Then there are the La Sombra.
And again, in his mind, don't care about them much either. Don't care.
Their seneschal is wise and powerful, but he is, without doubt, evil. Or rather, amoral. I don't believe he cares about life one way or the other so long as he is empowered by it. He is just intelligent and wise enough to know that the damage of his own actions must be contained, and so he at least makes the attempt. It is still not enough.
He grossly abuses the humans that greatly.
Pardon?
He said he abuses the humans greatly.
No more than any other Canaanites. Rather, it is how he treats other Canaanites that concerns me. Those who work with him profit greatly, yes, but those who choose not to, even those who wish to remain out of his way, will often pay a great price for it. But he is subtle enough to cause it to go unseen.
There's a scruntle, or like a look of displeasure on Qadir's face. And he simply says,
I believe your clan has, some sort of supply and confidence agreement with them. But then, I cannot blame your primogen for acting in ignorance.
I guess you were right then. We have gotten lazy and soft. I wasn't aware how bad it was until you brought up these examples.
It is a shame. The seneschal would not even be a poor prince. He might even be a feasible one. But there is a cost to his lust for power. And we haven't even gotten to the Setites.
Oh, we have our grievances with the Setites. My own personal vendetta of the lack of movement from the city.
Well, I hope my execution of one of them has granted you some moment of solace.
My focus is on one in particular. A priest, unfortunate in the sense of what he has captured. It's not enough for what one has shamed us with. Until this night haunts me in our weakness of letting him go.
They will all be dead soon enough. It's rather amusing to me, really. Despite the death of so many of your clanmates, if we were to take over, your clan might actually benefit the most. So many of your enemies are rendered unto dust.
As much as that elates me, my own personal goals is not always that of destruction.
In that, we differ greatly. I do find the destruction of the Malkavians regrettable, but I was assured from my partners that they had done more to damage the slums than I was aware of. Perhaps I was blinded by my own sympathy for them, being such an often trod-upon clan.
I have no relationships with the Malkavians, and the ones that I did know left the city long ago.
You seem very apathetic to many of the clans. Just because you do not have a relationship with them does not mean they do not concern you.
Of course they don't. But they did not wish to reach out to me, or more or less did not wish to receive my hails. Was my main purpose of being in the desk in the first place. To remind the city that the Assamites existed, and that we are useful, and more than well deserved of our place amongst the city.
You are a neonate. Few would hail to your call.
But, and regardless of that fact, I have every right to try. When things do not simply get done because I wish it to.
Then in contrast to my established criticism of your clan here, it is one of the cases where patience may actually be a virtue, rather than my previously stated criticism of your apathy.
What about the mortals? They have gone through much in the time that I've been here. It does pain me to see another tragedy hit the city.
It is an inevitable consequence. This is the nature of the jihad. It is disgusting. And it is my goal, and the goals of my compatriots, to see it removed from this place, to see the city free of it. But over the past 2 centuries, the city has been in a constant cycle of violence.
And he nods to that, because he's seen what's happening in the short amount of time that he's been here.
Ours will end it. Only insofar that we will have destroyed every party that can strike back against us. But that is how dire the situation has become. That there is no longer a choice. That this is the only way forward. For all of us. And that is perhaps the saddest part of all of this. That there was no choice involved, no agency. That, in spite of all that we believe in this city, that this is simply inevitability. This is simply nature, the blood taking its course. All these lives lost to attain an arbitrary measure of balance that could have been entirely prevented. All of what I do in retaking Edessa I find deplorable, but it is no longer something I have the luxury of dwelling on for long. Because it is my only path forward. It is our only path forward. To save Edessa from itself, and to rejuvenate my clan. to restore honor where it's been lost, and some purity of faith.
I only wish I was not masked by this ignorance before I got here.
I do not blame you. You are a neonate. Much would have been kept from you. You are not as the warriors I slew. You are not guilty. You are simply a vested party on the wrong side of the conflict. But this is why I give you the chance to turn to the other side, to make that choice, to walk away. Or to simply leave.
What of
You
my clan?
may leave Odessa if you wish, and never come back. You will be safe. From both me, my compatriots, and Odessa itself.
What of my clan? I wouldn't said.
What
Be
of your
honest,
clan?
there could be others that wish to join your party. Not all of Odessa is blinded by their greed.
Sadly, that is where we now stand. All who we took, admittedly forcibly and without their consent, their will, refused to join us. You can see the result. It was death. But we take them because we must, because let's be honest of ourselves, if we had spoken public on this issue, would we have been taken seriously? No. Odessa has long since stopped taking matters of importance seriously. Infernalists roam the streets. Lupines are threatening the slums. And all in the background, the citizens of Odessa continue to feud in their petty conflicts, ignoring the cost to the city itself. I think much can be done to aid Odessa. For one, it lacks a proper standing military. Law on the streets is segmented into districts. It is not applied equally or compassionately. Like everything else within Odessa, it is used as a tool to exploit. How much better things would be if there was a semblance of fairness to the place. But these are simple musings. They do not mean anything until everyone within that city is either dead or in submission to us. But you still have your choice now, Qadir. You can still choose to walk away, to leave this domain forever, or you can choose to help me kill the regent, or, well, you may choose death. That is also an equally valid option. It would be honorable.
Joining you what could be a sign of poor honor on my part. Treachery, even guided by proper justice, is still treachery.
You are bound by the laws of your clan, it is true, and as I have struck out against them, they would perceive me as an enemy.
If I were to join you, I would like the opportunity to save what I can.
We do not intend to cause any more damage to the mortal populace than we have already caused. We have already embraced many, many more than the city will be able to sustain, at least as the current population stands. Too many goals, too many moving pieces, too many people not ready or not meant to be subject to what they have been subjected to. But then this also applies to many years of Odessa's rulership under Canine Kind. I suppose that's it, really. That for all that we've done, for all the violence we've wrought within just a few days, a few nights, it is really nothing worse than has already happened to Odessa. I suppose I could draw some small amount of solace from that. But even at my lowest point, I am still no worse than most of us.
We both know two wrongs don't make a right. But I understand your statement. They are sad. There are people that I do care about. That I do believe they have a right to have mercy. As I understand death or submission.
Death or submission. Had the situation been able to be resolved politically, well, I mean, your clan had that chance, that's why we signed the treaty to begin with. I am sad to say it was a mistake.
That it was.
You may wish to tell your Primogen that. If you see him again, that is. So, will you aid me in the destruction of the city's princedom and in its revival? Or will you remain loyal to your clan? Or to the false princedom? I understand there is a difference. I am not so cruel as to assume you are honorless because you decide to oppose me. Though the sheriff and his lackeys may be. I do recognize you hold yourself to a different standard.
Do you know our laws? Most don't know the laws of the Assamites. Many simply choose not to care.
One of your own elders explained to me when I was a simple answerer.
I invoke the law of leadership to honor my clan and my elders, to give them the opportunity to surrender when we face them. I wish to invoke the law of protection to make sure that the minimum amount of mortal blood is spent in our actions. I invoke the law of our word, as I do not speak any lies, as I know you know. I invoke the law of judgment, and to bring judgment on the blood of Cain.
He nods somewhat respectfully towards you. Then I suppose you'll see how fate dictates your way forward. Or if it ends here. He will restake you. Properly this time. And will simply take you back to your shallow grave. Which is where we'll end this scene. As you're fed one last drop of blood. And this man enters the camp. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time.